Part 187. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1861. I looked at Su Tianqian with a smile and said, Tianqian, 7 days is not enough. If you think about it carefully, can you go to the tomb of the gods with me for 7 days? What's more, after the matter at the tomb of the gods is resolved, there is still the matter of the last layer of the sky coffin, so 7 days is not enough. Su Tianqian lowered his eyes, remained silent for a while, and said, It doesn't matter, I can accompany you wherever you go. I shook my head at Su Tianqian and said, Tianqian, you don't have to be too pessimistic. As long as I can help you find the Nuwa stone within 7 days, you can live longer. After everything is over, I am looking for a way to keep you alive. Su Tianqian was slightly startled and asked, Nuwa stone? Who told you that Nuwa stone can help me extend my life? I glanced at Zhao Mian. Su Tianqian followed my gaze and looked towards Zhao Mian. At this moment, I didn't notice that a look of loneliness flashed in Su Tianxian's eyes. I looked back at Su Tianqian and asked, Tianqian, as a descendant of Nuwa, you must know the whereabouts of the Nuwa stone, right? Su Tianqian, yes, I know where the Nuwa stone is. I took Su Tianxian's hand and said, no matter whether we can find it or not, we have to give it a try. As long as we can find the Nuwa stone, you will have more time. As long as we have time, we can look for it together solutions to the problem. Su Tianxian's frown slightly relaxed after hearing what I said. She smiled at me and replied, okay. I pulled up Su Tianqian and said, without further delay, let's set off immediately. Su Tianqian was pulled up by me. She shook her head at me and said, Xiao Su, there is no need to rush this matter. You just came out of the coffin. Take a good rest. We will set off tomorrow. I frowned and said, but Tianqian, your time. Su Tianqian replied, it doesn't matter. If you are looking for the Nuwa stone, 7 days is just right. I will take you to get the Nuwa stone tomorrow. As a descendant of Nuwa, it is natural for Su Tianqian to know the whereabouts of the Nuwa stone. When I saw Su Tianqian say this, I didn't mean anything. Su Tianqian walked towards the kitchen. Look, you just came back. I'm going to make you a meal. With that said, Su Tianqian walked towards the kitchen. I was about to follow him when Zhao Mian stopped me. Lu Su, you only have 7 days. If you haven't found the Nuwa stone after 7 days, then you have no choice but to go to the tombs of the gods with me. Regardless of Su Tianxian's death or not, the tombs of the gods are what you will eventually have to face. I think that you have experienced so many things and your mind has already matured. I won't say more. You can make up your own mind. I nodded towards Zhao Mian and said, don't worry, I won't let Su Tianqian die, nor will I leave the tombs of the gods alone. Zhao Mian looked at me deeply, then turned and left Ji Yuntang. I don't know where he went, after all, missing is his passive skill. After 7 days, Zhao Mian will take the initiative to find me. After Zhao Mian left, Su Tianqian and I were the only 2 people left in Ji Yuntang. Su Tianqian cooked me a dinner. We both sat at the dining table and ate. While eating, Su Tianqian suddenly said to me, by the way, Xiao Su, Mr. Qin came to see you. I was slightly startled and asked, did he come to me because of his grandson? End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1862. Su Tianqian nodded and said, yes, Mr. Qin is looking for you because of his grandson. Mr. Qin's daughter-in-law is about to give birth, but... Su Tianqian didn't say anything further in the middle of the sentence. I quickly asked, but what? Su Tianqian sighed slightly and said, his grandson will not survive. Can't survive? Su Tianqian nodded and said, his grandson has a special destiny. He was originally destined to be rich and powerful, but he suddenly encountered divine punishment. Mr. Qin's daughter-in-law had several miscarriages. If Mr. Qin had not sacrificed his life to protect him, his grandson would have died. I fell into deep thought after listening to Su Tianxuan's words. Qin Fenglin's grandson is the human emperor, but heaven and earth do not allow the existence of a human emperor. Therefore, Qin Fenglin's grandson will not survive. Zhang Zia told me about this matter before. When the human emperor comes to the world, the gods and heaven will not tolerate it. If you want Qin Fenglin, your grandson, to survive, you must cut off his connection with the way of heaven. Then I will inject the national destiny accumulated by each dynasty and each generation as well as the yin qi in the body of Yama of the 10 palaces into his body. In this way, Qin Fenglin's grandson was freed from the shackles of heaven. To put it simply, I strangled the human emperor in the cradle with my own hands and created a human emperor in my own way. Of course, I don't want anyone to become the human emperor. Because the human emperor shoulders the destiny of the human race, and only those with the destiny of the human emperor can be qualified. It's like a container and a liquid. If the body of an ordinary person is compared to a glass bottle, the human emperor's destiny is like hot magma. Pour magma into a glass bottle. The glass bottle will naturally explode if it cannot withstand the high temperature of the magma. It seems that I have to take action personally to resolve this matter. I looked at Su Tianxian and said, the matter of Mr. Qin's grandson is not difficult to say, nor easy to say. Our top priority now is to find the Nuwa stone. After finding the Nuwa stone, we can solve the matter of Mr. Qin. Su Tianxian rejected my words without thinking. Xiao Su, I know you are worried about me, but my life is my life, isn't the life of others not my life? Moreover, Qin Fenglin's grandson is the human emperor and has a very close connection with you. After you finish solving the matter of the tombs of the gods, he will still be needed to shoulder the responsibility for the rise and fall of the human race. This matter cannot be delayed and cannot be delayed. Tomorrow, you and I will go find Mr. Qin, and then we will go find the Nuwa stone after solving Mr. Qin's matter. I quickly stood up and said, but Tianxian. Before I finished speaking, I was interrupted by Su Tianxuan's firm tone. There is nothing wrong with it. I am the only one who knows the whereabouts of the Nuwa stone. If you don't agree with this matter, I will not look for the Nuwa stone. Seeing Su Tianxuan's resolute attitude, I could only sit down and let out a long sigh. Okay, I'll listen to you. Su Tianxian smiled at me. This is right. When Su Tianxian served me some food, I felt extremely bitter. Su Tianxian is a kind-hearted person. No matter who it is, even a beggar on the roadside, Su Tianxian will lend a helping hand. However, Su Tianxuan's prerequisite for helping is that the person has the desire to survive. Su Tianxian will not care about people who want to die. Soon, Su Tianxian and I finished dinner. After dinner, I sat on the sofa and thought about Nuwa stone. And Su Tianxian sat aside and read a book as before. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1863. I don't understand. Su Tianxian knew that she only had 7 days left to live, but she was still so calm. It seems that life and death are like drinking water and eating to her. But I can't accept it. I can't imagine the world without Su Tianxian. Although I have prepared for the worst, I still feel anxious, panicked, and scared. When Su Tianxian saw me staring straight at her, she put down the book in her hand and came to me. Xiao Su, what's wrong with you? Su Tianxian asked. I forced a smile and said, I'm fine. Su Tianxian smiled and said, it's getting late. You can take a quick shower and then rest. We'll set off early tomorrow morning. I nodded, stood up and walked towards the bathroom. After taking a bath, Su Tianqian also went to wash up. I lay in bed worried. It probably took more than 10 minutes. Su Tianqian walked out of the bathroom after washing. She was wearing a black nightgown, and her proud figure was highlighted by the nightgown. Su Tianqian lay beside me and said, "Xiao Su, don't worry, we will definitely find the Nuhua stone." I smiled at Su Tianqian and said, "Tianqian, don't worry, I won't let him die, absolutely not." Su Tianqian looked at me with tenderness on her face. She leaned forward and gently pressed her red lips to my lips. I was slightly startled, looked at Su Tianqian blankly, and asked, "Tianqian, you?" Su Tianqian said softly, This is what I promised you." I suddenly remembered that night in the hotel. I really didn't expect that Su Tianqian would remember such a small thing so clearly. But now Su Tianqian only has 7 days left to live, and I have no mood at all about it. Seeing how sad I was, Su Tianqian put her hands gently around my neck, and then pressed her whole body on me. "Xiao Su." Su Tianqian whispered in my ear, "Think carefully, you and I have been in a relationship for so long, but you haven't loved me properly yet, so tonight, can you love me properly?" I smelled the refreshing fragrance of Su Tianqian, and my heart began to beat. I nodded and said, "Okay." There are not many words to describe what happened after that. Early the next morning, I opened my eyes faintly. Su Tianqian lay in my arms and slept soundly. I looked at Su Tianqian in my arms, and my heart gradually calmed down. Now, I can hold Su Tianqian and feel her body temperature and her heartbeat. What about 7 days later? Can I still hold her like this? The future is unknown, and the unknown is scary. I don't know what the final outcome will be. If I had not found the Nuhua stone, then Su Tianqian would have been destroyed physically and mentally, and he would have died. By then, there will be no traces of Su Tianqian left in this world, only the memory in my mind. Is it possible that I have to rely on these memories to survive this life? No. This is worse than killing me. Just when I was thinking wildly, Su Tianqian opened his eyes. "Xiao Su, why did you wake up so early?" Su Tianqian asked. I replied, "I can't sleep anymore. Please tidy up. Let's go find Mr. Qin first, and then set off to look for the Nuhua stone." Su Tianqian nodded. Afterwards, I got dressed, tidied up briefly and sat in the lobby on the first floor waiting for Su Tianqian. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1864. After a while, Su Tianqian walked down from the second floor. Su Tianqian came to my side, held my hand and said, "Let's go." I nodded and asked, "Tianqian, is Mr. Qin still at the White House?" Su Tianqian replied, "No more. He told me last time that he would return to his hometown. If you come back, I will ask you to go to his hometown to find him." "Where is his hometown?" Su Tianqian thought about it for a moment and said, "His hometown is in a small village in the city next door." "Next door city?" "Well, it's in the next city. It's only an hour's drive away." Su Tianqian and I didn't hesitate and took a taxi to the next city. On the way, I asked Su Tianqian, "Tianqian, where is the Nuhua stone?" Su Tianqian took a look and said, "The Nuhua stone is in Linanhangcheng, you don't have to worry about this matter. It's just a Nuhua stone, there is nothing dangerous." I was startled and asked, "Tianqian, what do you mean?" Su Tianqian replied calmly, "It is a very simple matter to get the Nuhua stone without any danger, because this Nuhua stone was in my hands before. 8 years ago, I took it when I went to Linanhangcheng. The Nuhua stone was placed in a place because evil spirits were everywhere in that place, and only the Nuwa stone could suppress it and purify it. Now that 8 years have passed, it's time to get the Nuwa stone back. I scratched my head in confusion and said, Tianqian, since you know that the Nuwa stone can extend your life, why don't you keep it on your body all the time? Su Tianqian, because I never thought that my inheritance would fail. I thought I would accept the inheritance when the time came, but who knows now? Also, I didn't know that Nuwa stone could help me survive. If Zhao Mian hadn't said it, I don't think I would have known about it in this life. Su Tianqian pondered for a moment and continued, I think Zhao Mian had anticipated everything a long time ago. The reason why he didn't say anything was just for now. I held Su Tianxuan's hand with some guilt and said, Tianqian, I'm sorry, if it weren't for me, you should be very happy now, right? Su Tianqian raised her eyebrows and said with some displeasure, what do you mean I will be happy without you? Xiao Su, no matter how many times I repeat my life, I will make the choice I have now. In my heart, the memory between you and me is the most precious thing in the world. I would rather die than forget you or give up the memory between you and me. I realized I had said the wrong thing and quickly apologized, sorry, I said the wrong thing. Su Tianqian smiled and said, I don't blame you, it's just that you drove yourself too lightly. I shrank my neck and didn't dare to say anything. No wonder Su Tianqian looked confident from beginning to end. It turns out that the Nuwa stone belongs to her, and our trip was just to retrieve the Nuwa stone. An hour later, Su Tianqian and I came to a small village in the next city. This small village is better than my hometown. I grabbed an old man in the village and asked him where Qin Fenglin's home was. Qin Fenglin is a feng shui master who is very famous in this area. Moreover, this old man was also very warm-hearted. He led Su Tianqian and me to Qin Fenglin's house. I came to the door, stretched out my hand and knocked on the door. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1865. After a while, the courtyard door opened, and then a middle-aged man came into view. The middle-aged man is in his early 30s and looks very much like Qin Fenglin. I think this person should be Qin Fenglin's son. Who are you looking for? The middle-aged man asked. I replied, I'm looking for your old man. The middle-aged man was startled for a moment, and then said to me, wait a moment, I will go find my old man right now. Then, the middle-aged man entered the room, and Qin Fenglin hurried out after a while. Brother Lu. You are here. Qin Fenglin came to me and held my hand excitedly. I smiled and said, Brother Qin, don't worry. I already know everything about your grandson. I will help you solve this matter now. Qin Fenglin quickly led me into the room. After entering the room, I saw a beautiful woman sitting on a chair. The beautiful woman's belly was swollen, and she looked like she was already 8 months pregnant. In addition, the beautiful woman's face was pale, her eyes were lifeless, and her brows were full of exhaustion. Qin Fenglin quickly came to the beautiful woman and introduced me. Xiao Yu, this is the Lu Su I mentioned to you, Master Lu. Xiao Yu's head was covered with black lines and she looked at me in confusion. She opened her mouth, hesitated for a moment and said, Dad, you are not joking. He is so young, don't let him fool you. Qin Fenglin patted his chest and promised, Xiao Yu, don't worry. Brother Liu's principles are better than mine. Our grandson will be born safely. Qin Fenglin's son and daughter-in-law trust their father very much. Seeing Qin Fenglin say this, the two of them did not refute. I came to Xiao Yu and said to Xiao Yu, don't be nervous. I can solve your child's problem, but I can only guarantee that he will be born successfully. There is no way to guarantee your child's future life. Xiao Yu nodded, and then asked, Master, what happened to my child? I have never done anything wrong, how come my child cannot be born? I pondered for a moment and then answered, This son is the human emperor chosen by the human race. Xiaoyu was startled and asked curiously, what is the human emperor? I originally wanted to have a long talk with Xiaoyu, but then I thought about it. Xiaoyu might not be able to understand me after explaining so many things, so I might as well talk to Xiaoyu directly. To put it simply, your son has the appearance of an emperor and will become an emperor in the future. Xiaoyu and his wife were stunned when they heard the sentence, and then they both exclaimed in unison, "What? Emperor?" I nodded. Xiaoyu quickly asked, "But, it's been 2 billion centuries now, how can there be an emperor?" I was speechless for a moment when I heard the sentence. This little moon is a bit silly. Xiaoyu should be in her mid-20s. Because she looks very young. I stroked my forehead helplessly and was about to explain it to Xiaoyu, but Qin Fenglan stamped his feet anxiously on the side. "Oh! My good daughter! The human emperor is not the emperor. Dad will explain to you." Afterwards, Qin Fenglan began to explain the human emperor to Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu finally understood after Qin Fenglan's 5-minute explanation. "Dad, do you mean that my child will be a rich and powerful person in the future?" Qin Fenglan nodded and said, "Yes, that's what it means." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1866. Xiaoyu fell into deep thought after hearing this. She was silent for a while and then asked, "Dad, since my child is destined to be rich and powerful, why can't he survive?" Qin Fenglan was startled and didn't know how to explain it. Su Tianxian explained on the side, "This is a bit troublesome to explain, Xiao Su, you go out and prepare things first, and I will explain to her." I nodded and then left the room with Qin Fenglan. As soon as we arrived in the yard, heavy snow fell from the sky. Snowing. I looked at the snowflakes all over the sky, and my mind couldn't help but be pulled away. When I was a kid, I loved snowing. Because when it snows, the world will fall into unprecedented tranquility. Xiaoyu reminds me of my mother. When I was a child, I was very playful and would play in the yard for a long time every time it snowed. And my mother was sitting under the eaves, watching me quietly. After I got tired of playing, my mother would ask me softly if I was tired. At that time, I blushed and shook my head, saying, "I'm not tired." Now it is another snowy day, but there is no mother figure under the eaves. Qin Fenglan took me to a room and asked me, "Brother Lu, do you really have a way to save my grandson?" I nodded and replied, "I definitely have a way, but if your grandson is born safely, don't let him stay at home." Qin Fenglan was startled and asked, "Why?" I explained, "Although your grandson is the human emperor, after King Zhou, there is no emperor in the world. If you want to keep your grandson alive, you must be ruthless and take him away. Of course, if you want your grandson to be born successfully, you have to follow my method." Qin Fenglan said, "What can we do?" I told Qin Fenglan about the national destiny accumulated by each dynasty and each generation, as well as the yin qi of Yama in the 10 palaces. I will inject these two energies into your grandson's body, and your grandson will be born safely. Because with these two qi in the body, your grandson will have the capital to fight against fate. But, you have to be careful. When your grandson is born, Yama from the 10th hall of the underworld will most likely come to cause trouble." Qin Fenglan asked in confusion, 10 palaces of hell? Why do they want to trouble my grandson? This is just my guess. I don't know whether it will be cited or not. I replied to Qin Fenglan. The reason why I have such doubts is because if I succeed in starting a new era, the 10th hall Yama will definitely try every means to get a piece of the pie in the new era. And now the underworld has been strictly restricted by me. Except for ghosts, no force in the underworld can interfere with the affairs of the world. Once Qin Fenglin's grandson possesses the yin qi of the 10th palace of Yama, it means that he has the power of the 10th palace of Yama. The power of the 10 palaces of Yama was too powerful for the unborn child. And it cannot be controlled in a short time, so I can only seal it now. In addition, that child has the yin qi of the 10th palace of Yama, which is equivalent to having an inseparable connection with the 10th palace of Yama. The 10 halls of hell will take this opportunity to seize the child and return him to the world as a human emperor. Everything I laid out will be broken by then. So I have to make plans. Even if Yama of the 10th palace doesn't have this intention, I still have to be careful. Qin Fenglin is the kind of person who breaks the casserole and asks what's going on. He kept pestering me, asking what was going on. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1867. I couldn't tell Qin Fenglin about this, so I could only use the words "the secret must not be leaked" to explain it to him. When Qin Fenglin heard what I said, he didn't continue to ask. No wonder fortune tellers like to prevaricate people by saying that secrets cannot be leaked. I used to think that these 6 words "the secret of heaven must not be revealed" really means the secret of heaven must not be revealed. Now it seems that not being able to reveal the secret is only one of the reasons. Most of the time I say this just because I don't want to tell you and to prevaricate you. Of course, it's also possible that the person who said this really doesn't know what's going on. I said to Qin Fenglin, "Brother Qin, don't worry too much about your grandson. As long as you do what I say, nothing will happen to your grandson." Qin Fenglin suddenly stood up, knelt down towards me with a plop, and said, "Brother Lu, your great kindness and kindness will never be forgotten by me, Qin Fenglin." I quickly helped Qin Fenglin up and said, "Brother Qin, you don't have to be so polite. There is one more thing I want to tell you. Didn't I tell your grandson's fortune before? He is destined to have 5 peach blossoms, one of which is Empress Titian. Now I have helped you get the engagement. You have to find the remaining 4. Because these 5 peach blossoms are descendants of the 5 emperors, and as your grandson is a human emperor, the advantages of contacting them outweigh the disadvantages. Moreover, they can protect your grandson for a while." After hearing what I said, Qin Fenglin frowned and asked, "Brother Lu, how should I find these 4 girls?" I pondered for a moment and then answered, "After your grandson is born, you will use fortune telling as a guide to attract powerful people from all over the world to ask for fortune. As long as the families of these 4 girls show up, you will definitely see it. If I am still alive at that time, I will be by your side, Brother Qin." Qin Fenglin nodded repeatedly and took my words into his heart. "Brother Lu, there is something I don't know whether to say or not." I smiled at Qin Fenglin and said, "Brother Qin, there is no need to go around and around between you and me. Just say whatever you want." Qin Fenglin opened his mouth, then hesitated and said again and again, "Brother Lu, look at you, you are so young, how could you die?" I was startled, then smiled, and said, "Brother Qin, my fate has been determined. My whole life is just fighting against fate. I don't know if I will survive in the end. However, life and death are not that important to me. I just hope that my lover can survive." After Qin Fenglin heard what I said, he let out a long sigh and said, "Brother Lu, I'm decades older than you, why do you speak more maturely than me?" I stood up and said, "Just pretending." As soon as these words came out, Qin Fenglin couldn't help laughing. "Brother Lu, I didn't expect you to be so funny." Afterwards, Qin Fenglin and I chatted in the room for a while. While they were chatting animatedly, Su Tianqian knocked on the door. I opened the door, and Su Tianqian smiled at me and said, "The explanation is over." I nodded and said, "Okay, I will start casting spells at 12 o'clock tonight." Su Tianxian hummed, then took my hand and came outside the hospital. Xiao Su, it's snowing. This seems to be my first time watching snow with you. Su Tianxian said suddenly. Tianxian, have you forgotten, didn't we both watch the snow together when we were on Kunlun Mountain? Su Tianxian was startled, then chuckled, and said, look, my memory has actually forgotten this matter. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1868. It's not that Su Tianxian forgot, it's just that her memory is not as good as before. Su Tianxian and I stood in the courtyard, and soon our bodies were covered with snow. Tianxian, do you know what the situation reminds me of? I asked. What did you think of? Su Tianxian asked me curiously. If they fall in the snow together, they will grow old together in this life. I looked at Su Tianxian, her silky hair was stained with white snowflakes. The white sky against Su Tianxian seems real and illusory, like a dream, like light clouds enveloping the moon, and the flowing wind blows back to the snow, quiet and fresh. Su Tianxian stretched out his hand and gently wiped the white snow off my head. After all, white snow is not as good as 3,000 silver threads. It is better to grow old together than to be showered in the snow together. I was slightly startled, then took Su Tianxian into my arms and said softly, Tianxian, we will grow old together. Yeah, we will. Su Tianxian responded softly. Su Tianxian and I looked at the snow in the yard for a while, and then Qin Fenglin invited us into the house. In order to entertain Su Tianxian and me, Qin Fenglin asked his wife to cook a large table of meals. Su Tianxian and I sat at the dining table and had dinner with Qin Fenglin's family. There was a lot of fun at the table. Qin Fenglin's wife is somewhat deaf, so she has to speak louder in order for her to hear him. She held Su Tianxian's hand and kept praising Su Tianxian's beauty. Su Tianxian blushed a little after being praised. After eating, Qin Fenglin asked me about Feng Shui. If it were me before, I was told that Qin Fenglin was taught to me, but I couldn't understand it myself. But now the memory is awakened in my mind, and there is countless knowledge related to the secrets of Feng Shui and the number of Taoist talismans. This is the wealth I have accumulated in countless lifetimes, and I also know some lost techniques. So no matter what Qin Fenglin asks me, I can answer it accurately. After chatting for a while, Qin Fenglin couldn't help but admired, Brother Lu, you are only 20 years old, but you have so much knowledge. How can you make me, an old guy who has lived for more than 70 years, embarrassed? I am very humble to say that this is all a good teaching from my master. Su Tianxian on the side couldn't help but roll her eyes at me after hearing what I said. I just smiled knowingly. Qin Fenglin continued, Brother Lu, with your current level of cultivation, I'm afraid no one in this world can beat you. My current level of cultivation is very high, unprecedentedly high. I have taken all the energy that has accumulated in my body for myself. The dragon energy of the 99 dragon veins includes the Taoist behavior of the Su clan fox demon, the power of yin and yang, the half-life cultivation of Ksatagarbha, the dragon energy of the 3 major dragon veins, and the energy of heaven and earth. I couldn't use these powers before, but after 8 years in Tian Coffin retreat, I can now use these powers with ease. Of course, the 9 evil stars have already returned to the palace with the 8 evil stars, which is also an improvement in my cultivation. Even all the Feng Shui masters in the entire Feng Shui world combined are no match for me. But I didn't brag to Qin Fenglin. Instead, I said very humbly, Brother Qin, how can it be as exaggerated as you said? There are people who are better than me, and there are many people who are better than me. Qin Fenglin smiled heartily and said, ha ha ha. Brother Lu, you are so humble. In this way, while chatting with Qin Fenglin, I waited for the arrival of 12 o'clock in the morning. Soon, the time came to 12 o'clock in the morning. I came to Xiaoyu's room, only Su Tianxian stayed with me, and everyone else went out. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1869. Xiaoyu sat on the bed. She looked very nervous, her body tensed, and she looked around with some fear. Seeing this, Su Tianxian stepped forward to comfort him. Don't be afraid, nothing will happen. Xiaoyu's tense nerves relaxed slightly after hearing Su Tianxian's words. She nodded towards Su Tianxian and said, I try to control myself. I came to the two of them and said, Sister Xiaoyu, lie down first. Xiaoyu nodded and lay down. I knead the formula with one hand and muttered something in my mouth. As I moved, a dazzling golden light flashed between my eyebrows. The secret heavenly seal containing the yin qi of the 10 great Yama slowly floated out. Tianmi Lu floated out from between my eyebrows and floated in mid-air. Xiaoyu was surprised when she saw the scene and asked, Brother Lu Su, how did you do it? I smiled and replied, it's just a little trick, don't be surprised. After saying that, I looked at Su Tianxian and said, Tianxian, please seal this talisman into Sister Xiaoyu's abdomen later. Su Tianxian nodded. Then, I came to Xiaoyu's side and stretched out my index finger to gently tap Xiaoyu's eyebrows. Zhangxia has sealed the national destiny of all dynasties in my body. The destiny of the country is the destiny of the human race. Now, I only need to inject human luck into Xiaoyu's body, and then guide it all into the baby in Xiaoyu's belly, and I'm done. I took a deep breath and muttered something to mobilize the national destiny sealed in my body. As I recited the mantra, my index finger emitted a dazzling golden light. The golden light slowly sank into Xiaoyu's body. Xiaoyu frowned, and her face instantly became extremely ugly. I said, Sister Xiaoyu, don't be afraid. This process will make you feel a little uncomfortable. Don't worry, nothing will happen to you with me here. Xiaoyu hummed. I guided the human luck towards Xiaoyu's abdomen. Time passed minute by minute, and 15 minutes passed quickly. I said to Su Tianxian, Tianxian, you can do it? Su Tianxian agreed, then made the formula with both hands and recited the mantra. Immediately after, Su Tianxian finished reciting the mantra, and then suddenly stretched out his hand to clamp the secret urn containing the yin qi of the 10 palaces of Yama. When Su Tianxian's middle finger and index finger pinched the Tianmai Rui, Su Tianxian let out a light chuckle, and then threw the Tianmai Rui towards Xiaoyu's abdomen. Tianmalu pressed against Xiaoyu's abdomen through her clothes. I took this opportunity to transfer all the human energy to Xiaoyu's abdomen. Then I activated the secret seal of heaven that sealed the 10 palaces of Yama. As soon as I activated the heavenly secret, a gust of dark wind rose out of thin air in the room. The strong wind blew over all the furniture in the room. The curtains are also noisy. I frowned and used the dragon energy in my body to slowly merge the power of the King of Hell with the destiny of the human race. I have to balance the two very negative and positive forces. Because only in this way can the child in Xiaoyu's belly survive. If he didn't do this, the child would have died in the womb before he was born. If Qin Fenglin hadn't used the method before, then the child would have died long ago. The process of fusing these two forces lasted for half an hour. There were beads of sweat on my forehead. It took another 20 minutes for me to finish it. I slowly exhaled a breath and said to Xiaoyu, Sister Xiaoyu, it's done. End of this chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1870. Xiaoyu sat up and asked me, Brother Lu Su, will something happen to my child? I nodded and said, not for the time being. I have already told your father what will happen next. Just leave the rest to him. Xiaoyu got off the bed with great difficulty. She plopped down to her knees at me. Brother Lu Su, you are the benefactor of our Qin family. It's hard for our Qin family to repay such a great kindness even if we just act like cows and horses. If you come to my place usefully in the future, just ask, even if you ask me to die. I am willing. I quickly helped Xiaoyu up and said, Sister Xiaoyu, you don't have to be polite to me. This is what I should do. The child in your belly is destined to be with me. If I help him, I am also helping myself. Xiaoyu looked at me and opened her mouth, hesitated for a moment and said, Brother Lu Su, since you said that my child is destined to be with you, would you like to accept him as your disciple? I looked at Xiaoyu blankly and asked, accept him as your disciple? Xiaoyu nodded and said very seriously, Sister Tianqian told me about the human emperor. I also know that we will not be able to keep this child after he is born, but as parents, we just want this child to be safe. Since some things are unavoidable, we must find a way to get through it. This child will suffer countless hardships in the future. I want him to become your teacher and learn some skills so that he will not lose his life after leaving home in the future. I looked at Xiaoyu with some surprise. I didn't expect Xiaoyu to see things so clearly. I hesitated for a moment and said to Xiaoyu, Sister Xiaoyu, forgive me for not agreeing to this matter. Xiaoyu didn't expect that I would refuse, so she asked with some confusion, why? I explained, Sister Xiaoyu, I won't hide it from you. Tianqian and I are not close to each other. Neither I nor Tianqian can teach this child some skills, but my old brother Qin is also very good. With him here, this child will definitely grow up healthy. When Xiaoyu heard what I said, a look of loneliness flashed in her eyes. Okay, Brother Lu Su, although my sister doesn't know what you and Sister Tianqian have been through, I think you and Sister Tianqian will not die easily. I smiled and said, with your good words, Sister Xiaoyu, let's try to survive. Afterwards, Su Tianqian and I gave Xiaoyu a few more instructions and then left the room. As soon as Su Tianqian and I left the room, Qin Fenglin's family surrounded us. Brother Lu, how's the matter? I replied, Brother Qin, it's done. You just need to remember what I said to you and what I asked you to do. Qin Fenglin breathed a long sigh of relief and said, Brother Lu, you are truly the benefactor of my Qin family. When I saw Qin Fenglin kneeling down to me again, I quickly said, Brother Qin, if you are being polite to me, Tianqian and I will leave now. Qin Fenglin waved his hands repeatedly and said, You're welcome. You're welcome. Su Tianqian and I returned to the room Qin Fenglin prepared for us, and then we lay on the bed and started chatting. Tianqian, do you think we will have children? I looked at Su Tianqian and asked. Su Tianqian was startled, then smiled, and said, Of course I will. I smiled at Su Tianqian and asked, Tianqian, how can you be so sure? End of chapter.